So welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Mike. If you don't know that already, I am a small-scale hobby breeder, if that's what you want to call it, located here in Maryland. I'm mainly just a guy that really loves geckos. And I also have an affinity for geckos that are not commonly kept as pets or get a bad rap or anything like that. And in today's video, I'm actually doing a collaboration on how to take care of Gehyra Marginata, also known as Halmahera geckos or Ternate datellas. The collaboration I'm doing with is actually with a friend of mine named Michelle. You guys may know her on YouTube or Instagram as Reptile Smiles. She also really loves Halmahera geckos, and she really loves tokay geckos, so that's something that we have in common, and that's kind of how we even started talking in the first place. And she's got lots of information. We both kind of wanted to do a video where, you know, she shows how she takes care of the species and how I take care of the species. What we do like in a similar fashion and what we do differently. Because when it comes down to reptiles in general, there are so many different ways to take care of these things. As long as the husbandry, for the most part, overall is the same, you could do things differently that works best for you and for your reptile. First thing I will say is that when you go online, you will not find a lot of information about this specific species, and I'm really excited to try to do a care video. And by any means, I will not say that I am an expert about taking care of this specific species or really any of the geckos that I take care of. But my animals are doing very well, and you know, if they're doing well, then I must be doing something right, and that's the way that I look at it. And I've gotten a lot of my information from care sheets and then taking that information and combining it and finding what actually works right, and also talking with people that have successfully bred the species in general. So let's go ahead and get this show started, and let me explain to you how I take care of Gehyra Marginata. First things first, the one thing I want to say, and I cannot stress enough about this species, is that besides the fact that I find them completely phenomenal, they're amazing species, they are very rewarding to keep, they are definitely not for everybody. You will also have a very hard time trying to find a captive bred Halmahera gecko, and you will find a buttload of wild caught ones that are imported frequently. And the one thing I will say, the reason why that these guys are not for everybody is, one, is their personalities. They are very fast moving animals. They are skittish, especially the wild caught ones. So they make much better display animals. However, I do handle mine in short periods of time, and it seems to be working and getting them to calm down a little bit. But I will say that these guys are not an easily handleable species, and I actually find tokay geckos a lot easier to handle than these guys. Some people like to compare these guys to tokay geckos, but I will be the first one to say that they are not that much alike at all. If anything, Gehyra Marginata is more comparable to Phelsuma, which, if you don't know what that genus is, that's in reference to like day geckos. And the reason why I say that is because day geckos are very active, very bright, very aware animals, and so are Halmahera geckos. They also share another thing in common. They have this amazing defense mechanism that if attacked or grabbed by the skin, they can actually willingly just slough it off. So you have to be very careful with this species, knowing that, and that's another reason why they are not very handleable. So when keeping Halmahera geckos, the first thing you need to understand is temperature. A lot of vendors at reptile expos will try to tell you that Halmahera geckos should be kept exactly like New Caledonian species. Please take note that New Caledonian species of geckos can tolerate temperatures into the low 80s. However, Halmahera geckos like it hotter. I've seen care sheets on the internet try to say that temperatures around 72 degrees is ideal for a Halmahera gecko, but from experience and, you know, talking with, you know, breeders, especially the one that I got Katana from in Hanzo, these guys like it in the 80s. So I have ceramic heat emitters set up on all their enclosures, set to 29 degrees Celsius, which is about 80, 86. I think it's about like close to 86 degrees. That should be its hot spot, and probably shouldn't be too much higher than that. But I've also heard that people have kept them and had hot spots about 90 degrees, and they seem to do really well underneath that. However, after experimentation with all of my Halmahera geckos, they seem to be doing a lot better since I switched them over to ceramic heat emitters on, had a regulated temperature about 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So when you are setting up the enclosure for your Halmahera gecko, make sure that you're setting it up for a arboreal lifestyle. These guys are an arboreal species of geckos, and they really appreciate, height. So the dimensions of these enclosures are 18 by 18 by 24. I find that these enclosures work very, very well for a singular Halmahera gecko. However, pairs should definitely be kept in something bigger. And if you want to go bigger than this, honestly, it won't hurt. They actually probably would really appreciate the climbing space because these guys are an arboreal species. Now, when it comes to the substrate, I actually do use my own mixture of potting soil. I also use some coconut fiber mixed in with there, some activated charcoal, and this enclosure is a bioactive setup. So I have a golden pothos in here. I have some terrarium grass. I forget what the name of this plant is, but it's a plant that I actually found at Petco. I also use a lot of hiding spaces. These guys really like it decorated, but I also don't suggest really heavily decorating it to the point where the gecko cannot move around. So the most crucial thing about having a bioactive setup, though, you want to make sure that you have a drainage layer. Or you can go to PetSmart or Petco and pick up those Zoom Ed Hydro Balls, but they are pretty expensive and you don't get a lot. So what I ended up figuring out is that you can actually go to Lowe's and buy a 50-pound bag of these pea stones that you can use for outdoor, and you just wash them really well, and you put them at the bottom as a drainage layer. And then you could also just go get a screen, like for a screen door or whatever. You cut that out into the dimensions of the enclosure, the bottom of it, and then you put that there, and then you put your substrate on top. Now, I know you guys can keep these guys on paper towels. I just don't like paper towels. I don't like the way they look. I don't think you can really give enrichment via paper towels. However, though, there's nothing wrong with using paper towels. It's a sanitary method. And if you are doing a bioactive enclosure, it's highly suggested that you have a cleanup crew of springtails and isopods in there. So make sure that you got plenty of decorations, plenty of hiding spaces. This is as small as I would go for a Halmahera gecko that is a subadult to an adult. However, you can go bigger than this. A 40-gallon breeder size tank that's flipped upright actually probably would be the most ideal enclosure for these guys. Another crucial thing besides temperature when it comes to these guys is that besides the fact that they do like it hot, they also like it humid. It's pretty good to try to keep a consistent relative humidity of at least 67 to 70%. However, they can handle humidity drops down to 50%, but it should never go any lower than that. And at nighttime, humidity is very, 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 very crucial for them, and reaching up into 80% plus. So make sure that you are misting the enclosure at least 3 times a day if you live in drier climates. But if you live in Florida or something down south, it probably won't have to happen that often. But I use a Mist King system, and I have it set up for 45 seconds twice a day, once first thing in the morning and once at night. And it's pretty important to try to keep it drying out throughout the day, unless for instance during winter time around here the humidity drops outside a lot and it sucks the moisture outside of the house as well. So you kind of have to bump it up a little bit. So I end up changing it up to I think I do it 3 times a day, once at 8 o'clock in the morning, once at 1:30, and then once at 8 o'clock at night, and for a duration for about 30 to 45 seconds. So that when it comes to the diet of these guys, in a sense, yes, they are similar to crested geckos. However, with these, it seems to be suggested a lot more often that the diet primarily being insects. and you should feed them at least twice a week, maybe up to 3 times a week. And from experience myself, when I first got my captive bred ones, they took to insects very easily. However, when I started introducing a crested gecko diet more frequently, it seemed like they kind of cut back on eating insects. It doesn't seem to be doing anything really detrimental, but it seems to be the common thing to say that these guys should be eating mainly more of like a gut-loaded insect diet. These guys really go after crickets. They love crickets. Roaches, you probably could do that as well. But if you do have feed them a crested gecko diet, make sure that it has insect protein in it. I suggest Pangea's, breeding and growth formula, but you should add something you should add one of their other flavors to the mix to kind of sweeten it up a little bit, because these guys do really like the sweetness of that. And I will also tell you that these guys are pigs. Like, they eat a lot and they love to eat. And if you ever notice something strange about, them just kind of like just going off food, sometimes apparently that is also normal as well. However, you just keep an eye on it, because they're not from an area where they typically would brumate, which is an equivalent to hibernation in reptiles. But, if you ever take notice of it, don't be shocked or alarmed if he kind of goes off food for like a week. But, if it goes any longer than that, then there's definitely something going on. And you should definitely take that Gehyra gecko to the vet. And when it comes to handling, bottom line, these guys are not very handleable. From learning, from keeping the species, the captive bred ones are a lot more tolerant of handling than the wild caught ones. The wild caught ones, you might as well just say, never mind, don't even try. Handling these guys is not necessary. Handling any pet reptile is not necessary. And if you really want something that you can handle on a frequent basis, a Gehyra gecko is probably not best for you. But at the same time, though, these guys make phenomenal display creatures. They're very active at night. They probably would be the most active gecko you'll ever see at night. They're very inquisitive, very intelligent, and they really love to go on little adventures within their enclosures. So that pretty much wraps it up, guys, for today's video. Go ahead and check out Michelle's video about how she keeps Gehyra geckos, and see the differences, the similarities that we have. And like I said before, I'm not an expert. Take the information that I provided, that I've gathered by doing my own research, looking at different care sheets and talking to breeders of the species, which are not they're not common. And I kind of just based my care around all that information that I've collected. I've done a lot of experimentation. I spent lots of money trying to figure out, how to really do something that works great for my Gehyra geckos. If you take the information I get and you get the stuff that I use, it will be pricey from the get-go. However, the animal itself, if you can't find a captive bred one, wild-caught Gehyra geckos run about $40 at reptile expos. Now, if you do get a wild-caught one, just keep in mind that that thing is going to be loaded with parasites, and you're going to need to take it to the vet as soon as you get it, pretty much. However, so the ideal thing is to look for a captive bred one. However, not a lot of people do it, so you're going to have a hard time finding one, especially considering that, the incubation time for eggs for them are like 6 months minimum. So, you're going to be waiting a while before you really see them. So, like I said, guys, check out Michelle's video. She's great. She's awesome. Other than that, I got nothing else to say. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I guess I'll see you the next time. See you later.